public can participate in this meeting remotely, but not in person, by calling 301-715-8592, webinar ID 492-1579-7769, or join at the listed HTTPS Google address posted on the agenda, where the password is 109586. Again, for additional details, please see events calendar on the district website under agenda. We are in compliance as mentioned. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes, which will be uploaded this week on the agenda, so that is tabled. Next item on the agenda is the payment of bills. Mr. Chandler, is Alex Prignano on? Do we know?
He is not yet. I'll
He is
see if I can
not.
reach him.
Only, I just want to see if he's got any input. If you wouldn't mind trying to reach him, want to see if he has any input on the payment of bills. We'll give it a few minutes. Mr. Murphy, how are you tonight?
Doing well, yourself?
Good, good. Looking forward to talking about these air cleaners here. What are we doing?
This is Alex coming in on a phone call now.
Coming in now? Excellent.
Alex, you there?
Yep.
All right.
Mr. Prignano,
Yes.
can you join us by video?
Hi, Ray. Well, when I join by video, it seems oftentimes it breaks up and I'm not clear, so I figured
Correct.
it's more important to hear me than
Okay,
so.
all right,
I
that's
feel
fine.
bad for those who can't see me.
No, that's okay. I understand. All right, so the next item on the agenda, Mr. Prignano, is the payment of bills for the total amount of $323,065.89. I'm not sure if you had any input on that before I ask for a motion.
No, I'm all. Yep.
Okay, pleasure of the committee.
So,
A motion for the
Motion
approval.
to approve payment of bills, the amount of $323,065.89.
Thank you, Mr. DeMonica. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bernardo. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it, 3-0. I think everyone's a little tired, heat exhaustion. Next item on the agenda, welcome Superintendent Mitchell. Next item on the agenda is the Business Office Monthly Report. Mr. Prignano.
yeah, I believe Cindy included in your documents today,
Yes.
an updated report of where we stand and what we need to do in order to, run a relatively good, hybrid plan that, provides for cleaning, provides for substitutes, provides for the chromes and that type of stuff that we feel we need to run a program next year. And I've gone through a lot of these line items a number of times. I'm not going to bother doing that unless someone wants me to. But you see, as of right now, we have a gap of about $913,000. What I'm hoping to do, if you look at that $912,000 variance at the bottom, if you go 3 lines up, you see Chrome devices for $385. We were originally going to try to put these through the COVID relief funds, but they have to be delivered by December 30th, or you wouldn't be able to spend the money on them. And I'm just not comfortable enough I know Mike has had some recent conversations with the vendor who thinks they will be in December, but if we ever miss that date, we wouldn't be able to buy the Chromes using that relief fund. So I put it into the budget, and down below you can see things that I want to apply against the 636,001 money that were been awarded. Excuse me, but I think if we do our own master lease, and when we talked last week about this solution, you might remember, the mayor kind of chimed in and said whether it was on our books or his, which kind of made me think that maybe he'll pick this up. I haven't necessarily made that inquiry yet, but there might be an opportunity there. That would bring our 912 down by that almost $400,000. And then the rest of it, I was hoping that we might have some savings on busing if we're going to go a hybrid plan and actually go have one virtual day a week. There would be some bus savings there, but that all depends on what we can work out with Durham. As you know, they've made a request that we pay them money for that we owe them.
Well, Mr. Prignato or Mr. Mitchell, have we reached out to the state for any reimbursement or allocation of funds towards any of this?
Just, if I could just jump in.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Salvatore. I actually had a conversation with the mayor today about this $50 million that the governor said no one has asked. I don't know if anybody had a chance to see that in her press conference.
Oh, yeah.
So she said publicly that there's this, it was, I guess, a reporter asked her that question. What about the $50 million that was available? Has anyone, approached, I guess, the governor's office to take advantage of that money? And she said no one has contacted her. I believe the governor. I do sort of find that hard to believe, but we did have a conversation about that today, actually, the mayor and I, and I can't say for sure that the governor, that the mayor has reached out, but my sense is that there have been conversations about that, and we have had multiple conversations over the last 2 days, or I have, with the Education Operations Center, and the person that our contact, Kristen Marcotte, and I have actually talked about that money. And I, my sense is that they were hoping to access that money as well. So I got to believe that there's been some conversation between the Education Operations Center and the governor's office on using that money for things like these air purification units, MERV, these, and I keep getting these terms mixed up, but these filters that we know we need. So there are conversations, Mr. Salvatore. I'm not so sure that anybody knows exactly how to access this money, but I do believe. Yeah.
Is there, obviously it's a request document, but I guess it's trying to find out how to. So did you say the mayor's going to be looking into this?
Well, we did have a conversation, and I know the mayor, here's what the mayor said, and I appreciate his philosophy here. His position is, let's do what we need to do to get these schools open and to make sure they're safe. And then we'll, not that we shouldn't worry about the money. And I know that's the last thing that Alex or any of you want to hear, but let's do what we need to do to get these schools ready safely for students. And we're going to go do everything that we possibly can to access funds to support the work that needs to be done.
Mrs. Bernardo,
If I can,
you're on mute. Mrs. Bernardo,
Does Alex have something to say before I ask a question?
yeah.
Mr.
Well,
Prignato?
I got back on. I got somehow cut off. I don't know how, but I'm back on. And I think the money the governor was talking about that no one has requested is there were the two pots. There was the ESSA money, which our application's in, and that was $530,000. And there was the 636 that you see on that page. That's the $51 million I think the governor's talking about. And I think what she was saying is, gee, no one's applied, no one's done this. Yeah, because RIDE just got the paperwork out a week ago. Not even really like a week ago, because they had all sorts of issues with the governor's office on, because she didn't want to allow people to go back into FY20. She wanted to punish Warwick for not opening up, and all these crazy things that were happening. And so that's finally now, and we worked on that application today, Janine in my office and myself. So that's the money she's talking about. Everyone's going to apply for that, but the paperwork wasn't even available to apply. I don't think there's a third pot of money that she's talking about, that she has $50 million. You know, there was the 51 million in COVID relief funds and 41 million in ESSA. And those are the two things, and we're applying for both of them. And we've got 530 in one and 636 in the other. And that's the money that has to be spent by December 30th. And that's why I'm a little bit afraid to put the Crohn's in there, because if they don't come in time, they wouldn't qualify for that money. It has to be spent by December 30th. The ESSA money, different story. You have to December of 2022 to spend that money, yet that's the money that replaced our state aid that they wiped out. So to me, it all seems backwards, but those are the rules that I currently understand.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Bernardo?
Just a question around this is that, after Thursday's meeting, I am sure all of us received quite a number of emails from the high school parents being concerned about what was discussed about, there's money allotted for the elementary schools, but it doesn't include the high school. And then Mr. Mitchell tried to clarify that we intend to repair all the schools. So I guess for clarification, at least at the main meeting where most of the people will be attending, are we going to be able to have that discussion about what to expect as far as is work going to be able to be done at all the schools, including the high school now? Because a lot of high school parents feel like they're going to have their kids at home like indefinitely. And I just don't want misinformation being spread around and getting people all in a tizzy for nothing.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, I mean, that's a good point. Good question. There have been some confusion after the last meeting. So to answer the question, we have been putting plans in place to address all of the schools, including the high school, especially the trans building, which is, as we all know, probably in the worst shape as far as ventilation goes out of all of the buildings in the district. So we have spent a lot of time talking about that. We are, as you know, we have talked about purchasing these 200 air purification units, and the thinking was that we would be able to use those air purification units to help cleanse the air in all of our buildings. But the thing that we had in mind was the trans building, and we actually developed a plan today, a creative plan. Paul Murphy was on the call. Will, actually the whole central office leadership team.
Mr. Mitchell,
Talking.
is this the update? Is this what we're going to talk about on item number 9, number 8? I apologize.
Yes.
All right, let's hold off. Okay.
Okay, I was just responding to Mrs. Bernardo's question, but
Yeah,
okay,
no,
we can
we'll
hold
dig
off.
into that. Mrs. Bernardo, does that help a little bit, or do you mind waiting till?
Well,
item
the
number
answer
8?
to the question is yes, we're prepared to address the issue in the meeting, open meeting. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Superintendent Mitchell. Mr. Brignano, anything else to add in regards to business office monthly report? Any committee member?
No, I just wanted to update you. There's been a couple of new items added on there. There was some TAs that they're going to hire. They want to hire to help with the virtual program, I guess. And so they're kind of on the bottom of the list now. That 77,000 is new, and there might be one or two other items on there that have changed a little bit. And the problem with the COVID money is the things that are on the bottom. We don't know how much it's going to cost. For example, we could put high school repairs, elementary. We could put 300,000-400,000 in there and move some of the other stuff out, some of the cleaning stuff, some of the stuff. But we just don't even know if we're going to be able to get the technicians to help and how much the stuff will cost. So we're kind of flying in the dark there, that I'd like to address more univents there if we need to, but we're starting with 200,000. And then of course, the mayor mentioned that, that we have the bond and bond proceeds and stuff, and all those univents are in the trans univents are part of the bond issue. So a lot depends on some cooperation with RIDE and helping a short circuit or shortcut a little bit their requirements. If we want to, their requirements usually take many months to get through, and we need that for that to be streamlined so that we can get order univents because they're being replaced, not repaired,
Okay.
so that we can order univents and get that work done.
Excellent. On another note, Mr. Prignano, I noticed an increase on the health claims, 240, 541. Can you speak a
Yep.
little bit about that? Do you have any input?
Yeah, the group that we joined, WB Community, we now have a set working rate that we get billed for. It's kind of a hybrid plan, appropriate, I guess, hybrid in this day and age now. But theoretically, if we build up savings, if our claims are less than what we're paying for premiums, we would build up a surplus. Unlike a regular premium arrangement, if you're paying a premium, and if there are savings, well, Blue Cross keeps them. If there are savings, you actually get them back. But like a premium arrangement, they calculate what they estimate will be a working rate up front. Ray Chauvin thinks there's going to be savings there. I'm not as convinced. I think the working rate will be pretty much right on target, and that'll be it. But what we don't have to worry about anymore is a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 claim that would hit us in that particular year. That because if something like that happened, if we were to overspend what we're paying into WB Community on a set fee every month, that wouldn't be calculated or figured into then next year's budget or next year's working rates that they would provide us. So those shock claims that would really scare us, we're facing 500, 600, that we shouldn't have that anymore.
Okay. All right. One last, and then I have Mr. DeMonica. Go ahead.
Alex, did the ventilation repair dollar amount increase from 150 to 200,000?
Yeah, I put 200,000 on there now. I'm just trying to find, the best way to spend that 636, and that, I know we can at least spend $200,000 there. We got enough work to do, but some of the other things on there, the apps that all these educators want for the virtual program, and you see the study on there, the $40,000. You see the $80,500 on there for the 200 units that's gonna be before this committee in just a few moments, I would imagine. It's on the agenda as a resolution. And so
Yes.
what I'm trying to do, because in that money, you have to budget whatever you're asking for. You have to have in your budget the remaining 6 months. So if we put in someone's salary, that COVID relief money pays from September, or in this case October, whenever school starts, to December 30th, and then the district would have to pick up the balance of it for 6 months. So you're almost getting, a 10-month school year. You're spending 60 cents to get 40 cents if you're doing salaries. What I've tried to do is pick out things that will kind of be one-time items that we won't have to include in the second half of the budget. For example, we buy these air purifiers. We shouldn't have to buy any more. If we get our univents repaired, we shouldn't still be repairing univents come April, May, and June, if we're going to open schools. So I tried to pick items that we wouldn't have to include other funds in our budget in the second half of the year. The tech apps. So they're all almost, if you look, kind of either repairs or capital items. They're not things that would be repetitive.
So the superintendent could announce tonight that the ventilation repairs have increased by another $50,000 to take into consideration the high school, correct?
Yeah, but he could, but we don't know if the repairs are going to be 100,000 or 400,000 until we get people in there. And there's some good news. I reached another company today that I was given a phone number saying that they might be interested in doing work, and we've got a meeting with them Monday at 10 o'clock. We may be able to pick up another crew or two. We've got a crew coming in from Next Gen on Monday. We've got our own 2 people, Don and Jody, that people know, and then Paul Murphy's working into his. I don't know if Paul's on this call or not. I think he's going to be on later, maybe.
Mr. Murphy is on this call. He is on this call.
Oh, okay. So Mr. Murphy could talk about what he's trying to do with working through his company with maintenance people that, are finishing up jobs he feels in Massachusetts and may be able to be, Cumberland may be able to use. So we're trying to put some crews together so we can get teams working in each of the schools and some of the repairs may be very, very simple. Some of them may not be. So I put 200,000 in there plus all the 80,000 for the purifiers. So there's like $280,000 in total being spent on, or at least being budgeted at this point for air quality.
Okay. Mr. DeMonica, does that fulfill?
Yeah, it does.
Mrs.
Thank you.
Friedman?
A question for Mr. Mitchell, because I know he had called the Operations Center about getting help from the National Guard or getting some help in any way. And I know you didn't hear back from them right away, but it sounds like you talked to them today. Is there anything they can do to help with some of this?
I actually, on my way home from work yesterday, just before the forum last night, I did have a chance to, I actually called them again because I had not heard from them. And they said they wanted a little more specific information about the help that we needed, which was a little frustrating to me because I thought I was pretty specific about what we needed. So I explained again that we had done this ventilation study, and my assumption was, based on the information that was provided by the governor, that the Rhode Island National Guard, and I would readily admit that this was an assumption on my part, that they might have some resources available to help us repair some of these univents, assess and potentially repair some of these univents. So that's what I expressed a week ago, and I expressed again today. And I can tell you, and I readily admit that I was a little frustrated in my conversation with them. So now we got all kinds of people calling us who are willing to help. In fact, one of the reasons I was a little late to this meeting is because I received a call from Christine Lopes-Metcalf. She is the person who works with the RIDE facilities team. You may have recognized that name, and she was calling to offer her assistance. So I don't know if they're going to be able to actually, get people in here to help us, but they did say that they were going to be working with Will. I guess the state is using the service of, is it Arden, Will? Yeah, Arden is a mechanical firm company that does this sort of work, and they are offering technical assistance. So we're getting a little bit more help from them, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And I'll be on the phone first thing tomorrow morning with Christine Lopes-Metcalf, who leads that facilities team at RIDE, to see if there's anything that she can do. So it's interesting. The last 5 or 6 hours of the day, we're getting a little bit more attention from these different agencies. And I think they're struggling a little bit with communication between all of these groups, given the fact that they have been established within a pretty short period of time. So it's I sort of felt like at times like the right hand didn't know what the left was doing, but I think they sensed our frustration and the fact that help was, being touted publicly and nobody was getting any help. So I made sure I mentioned that several times. So now it appears that they are going to try and respond to some extent.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Anyone else? A question in regard to the Business Office Monthly Report? Mr. Prignano, I do have a question. Talk to me a little bit about the finance going on with the pool. I know the pool company is no longer in there, correct?
No, they're there.
They are there? Okay.
Yep.
So who's footing the bill for the chlorine and the chemicals?
Well, I know we pick up some at times. Will can answer this. He has his, because we're making sure that we spent all this money. It's being maintained correctly, so we want to be involved with it. And we've picked up some supplies when we noticed we've had to. And Will, I believe, gives the bill to Jeff, the operator over there, to reimburse us.
And he's paying rent?
Right.
Is he paying the rent?
He is paying rent. When he first went in there, he was paying half of it. And he's ratcheted it up now to $4,000, and he thinks next month he'll be back at full amount.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Any further questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Prignano. Don't go anywhere. Next item on the agenda is Sedesco Food Service Report or Sedesco Facilities Report, which we should probably change that. Mr. Prignano, anything on these?
No, I'm not going to say any of it.
Next item on the agenda, number 8, update on implementation of E&E school buildings ventilation study. Mr. Mitchell, did you want to take this one and have Mr. Murphy give us an update?
I think since we have the expert here, that it makes sense to have Paul, give us an overview of where we are, and maybe he could, share with the committee the conversation that we had this morning about our plan to really address the whole district, but specifically the trans building. Paul, if you don't mind.
Just unmute. There you go.
Yep.
Welcome.
How are you guys?
Great.
So where we are right now is I've been trying to round up some resources to help get some of the repairs done. We have Next Gen Mechanical is going to start on Monday, and that's part of the plan we spoke about. We're going to have them start at transitional, see if they can spend a day there fixing units. And once they get them fixed, meaning practically every unit we found had the outside air damper closed. So basically they fail right out of the box. So if they can go in and make repairs or rig them so that the outside air damper is open so they're bringing in fresh air, then I'll come back in on Tuesday or Wednesday and put the balancing hood on those and see if we are getting adequate or some fresh air that would be able to then be supplemented with the air filtration units to make an acceptable environment. As part of another update is, as you know, we purchased 200 ventilation units. They're HEPA filtration units. They were 7 to 10 days. We ordered them last Friday. We got order confirmation on Tuesday morning. So I'm hoping to start seeing some of them end of next week. And then we can go through the list of schoolrooms that are deficient, and they are designed to make up 2 air changes an hour. If you go down our list, you'll see there's quite a few spaces that don't make the air changes an hour category, and this would supplement that to get those into an acceptable range of 4 to 6 air changes an hour. Other than that, I got an update while you were getting started here with the meeting that we have an automation tech, someone that can work through the energy management system. He's going to be on site from Tuesday to Friday. And we unfortunately have a resource crunch in the office. I'm going to have some sporadic time from the remote center that we can log in and fix things remote. For those items that we can go in and change the outside air damper position remotely, we're going to have Art McCormick doing some of that work as well. Keeping in mind, he's our only phone support person for next week. We're a little undermanned in the call center right now. We have another guy on vacation. So I'm going to try to do as much as we can. And hopefully we can turn some of these reds to greens next week.
Right, thank you.
I also spoke to Arden, and and I'd reached out to Arden also for additional resources. Our mechanical services folks are trying to find some resources. We have a tremendous amount of calls right now. So it's been hard to free up our own people, but Arden is also interested in helping out. And they, probably do better working direct for the school district.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Chandler, I'm getting some noises. Can we mute out?
Yeah, I think it's Alex. Maybe
It's Alex, I figured, yeah. If you could mute him for me, thank you. Mrs. Friedman? You're on mute.
I don't know if I missed it or not, but did we get the updated version of the report based on the classroom capacity, the student capacity?
Mr. Mitchell?
Paul, we talked about this yesterday. If we reduce the number of students in a class from, I think it was 25, that was used to calculate the, necessary air exchange and all of the things that went into the decision about whether or not we could use rooms or not. And we talked about, using half the number. You said you were gonna redo that calculation. Have you been able to do that?
I actually finished it just before the meeting. So I do have some stats on that. So of the 21 spaces, there's just a lot of data, but I do have the stats on it, and I could send that over to you.
All right, great, thanks. And we'll get that out to the school committee ASAP.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Collins?
Hey, Mr. Murphy, thank you for being here. How long would these 200 HEPA filters last us? But if you can even.
Well, the HEPA filters will last as long as they don't get damaged. They should last a couple of years. I believe there's a 1 or 2 year warranty on the equipment. The filters themselves probably need to be replaced every 3 to 4 months. Each of the filters is between $40 and $50, or 50 and 60. I forget which one we selected. I looked at so many, but the filters, it looks a lot like a dehumidification unit. I don't know if you want to see a picture of a cut sheet of what they look like. If Mike would share my screen, I could show them to you.
I'm just concerned. I mean, I want to make sure that they're enough, because you were lucky to have these filters now, but I'm worried that everybody rushing to get them right now. Production's down, and I don't want to be in a situation in March where we don't have enough HEPA filters. Yeah, HEPA filters. So
we bought 200, and I bought 300 for the town of Sharon, all on the same day. I think I cleaned that manufacturer out pretty good. I think it's very good that you're able to get from the same manufacturer, so Will's not chasing 4 different size filters. So I sent Will and Mike Chandler, and I believe Alex was on the email, the link to their filter purchase program, that you can sign them up and they'll ship them out in 4 months. They'll send them to your location. So they have like a filter replacement program. Seems like a pretty legit company. I don't know how good the equipment is. We've never used the equipment, but it seemed like a pretty decent piece of equipment. We looked at the specs pretty hard. We talked to the manufacturer, so hopefully by the end of next week, we'll start seeing deliveries.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. Bernardo? Just unmute, and then Mr. Fiorillo.
It's related to the filters. In the specs that were sent to us, it also shows there's a filter that would be like, I guess needs to be like cleaned. So the HEPA would be replaced every, say, 3 to 4 months, but there's the other filtration that says it needs to be cleaned. Does that have to be cleaned like monthly? And is that something that, like, our custodians, not that you could answer that one, but Bob probably could, or Alex, are we prepared to be able to clean 200 filters if we need to? No? Yes?
I don't know. I think that's something that we're definitely going to have to plan. That'll be a conversation with Will.
Okay. I know it's all I know, it's a lot of units, so I just wanted to ask about that.
Mr. DeJesus, if you could look into that and advise back to Mrs. Bernardo, that'd be great.
I will do that.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Fiorillo?
Paul, I was at Cumberland Hill today. Did you assess any of the rooms that are going to be used for the special education classrooms starting on Monday?
We may have, but we weren't given a list specifically for special education. We had a conversation early in the week and I was going to get a list, but I did not receive it.
And I know, and I'll let Bob answer that, but I know at BF Norton, the gymnasium in that building essentially has no ventilation, I believe. Is there anything that we can do quickly to make that actually a usable space?
You'd have to take a look at, I could look at what was in the report, but have to look at what kind of equipment it is. Replacing, if you have a large H&V unit, like most of the cafeterias and gyms have, you're looking at about a 6-week lead time to get the equipment. If you wanted to do a permanent replacement, there's always stuff you can try to do, especially in a large space like that with rental equipment, but it does get pricey and a lot of that equipment's been snapped up already. But I mean, we could always look at something, try to do something there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. DeMonica? Then Mr. DeJesus. Mr. DeMonica, you're on mute. Mr. DeMonica, yeah, there we go.
I'm fine, thank you. Will and others have been on the roof as of Monday, checking belts and fans up there and motors. So they were ordering parts to get that school roof squared away. So I'm not sure if the gymnasium has an exhaust or not, but I mean, they have been on top of that roof already. And the goal was to go from school to school to school to get on the roofs and start fixing and ordering parts.
Okay. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item number 9, discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mitchell.
Excuse me for interrupting. I know that Will was, had his hand raised. Yeah, that's okay. And he has a response to both Mr. Fiorillo's question and Mr. DeMonica's question.
Mr. DeJesus, go ahead. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Thank you.
Jody and I were on BF Norton's roof. We found 3 motors that need to be replaced. They are in. We're going to pick them up tomorrow and replace them. Jody is also going forward and changing the airflow at that school, that we should be in pretty good shape to go back to school on Monday. We'll know more tomorrow. And I did hire an electrician to start work at Community, which he's got 2 motors there that he had to order, and at Ashton as well. And we're moving over to Cumberland Hill for the exhaust on the roofs.
Okay. Will, can you answer about the special ed rooms at Cumberland Hill?
So we cannot change the airflow settings over there. And Paul will be able to change those to go from 15% to probably 100% of airflow. We'll have to talk to him about that.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mitchell.
The just so that you know, one of the things we've done over the last few years, and Paul Murphy is the perfect person to have here this evening to make sure that what I'm about to say is right. But we have, focused a lot of attention on energy management systems. We have done a lot to manage our systems electronically, and what Will is referring to is an opportunity for E&E to, since they provide service to the district, that they might be able to do this work electronically. Paul, can you please explain? I've learned a lot about, certainly got a long way to go, but I've learned a lot about ventilation over these last few weeks. But can you talk about, like right now, the airflow, and Will and I talked about this today, in some buildings, the airflow setting is at like 15%. And one of the things that we can do is increase that, I don't know if it's intake of air to up to 100%. Am I making any sense? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, It depends on each of the univents and how they were programmed originally when they were installed or when we upgraded the controls. But they're on the screen, the EMS screen. We have remote access into all the elementaries and the 2 middle schools. And we're able to go in and make set point changes. And if outside air percentage is a set point, that's one of the things we're going to try to have Art McCormick go through and make those changes. So, I mean, I'll talk to Will offline about this, but we should have a list of the things that we would like them to do on a school by school basis that we think they can do remotely. And then I could have Art working when he has a free few minutes from taking service calls to work on that remotely. Also, John Bombardier is going to be there next week, and he should be able to do a lot of the same things. It depends on the limitations of the system, and not all systems were created the same.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Mitchell.
All right, so can you explain, and I'm curious about this myself, can you explain what advantage it would be to change the airflow setting from 15 or 20 or 25% to a higher percentage, whether it be 75 or even 100? Can you, what advantage do we gain by changing that setting?
So the setting we're looking to change is the outside air percentage. So 100% of the air comes out of the top of the unit. And if we vary the damper that's down below, it either takes 50%, it could take 50% from the room or 50% from outside, or we could take 100% from the outside. Not all equipment can go 100% on the outside air, but you can programmatically change that in a lot of cases to increase the percent of the outside air that you're pushing through the top of the univent. But
Thank you.
We won't know until we look specifically at each one and the program that's there. So, but that could be one of the top priorities.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, number 9, discussion and/or vote to approve resolution SC PR 9 2020-16, which is the purchase of air purifiers with the HEPA filters. Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Perdonato want to comment on this? Anyone?
I can do it very quickly. You know, as we've mentioned several times this evening, we had an opportunity, and I really want to thank Paul Murphy for his diligence on this, was able to, get 200 air purification units. And I believe that the cost is around $80,000. So we're and the intent initially was to, just so that everybody knows, and I hope the community will know that we're really working hard here to be in a position to support all of our buildings, but especially the trans under the circumstances. So I want to thank Mr. Murphy, and there is a resolution in the amount of 80,000 or so. I don't have it right.
I'm going to read it, Mr. Mitchell.
Okay.
This is a resolution empowering the Cumberland School Committee to authorize a contract with E&E Systems of Canton, Mass. To supply the district with 200 Space HSP002 air purifiers in an amount not to exceed $80,500. Pleasure of the committee.
Motion to approve.
Mrs. Bernardo makes a motion to approve, second by Mr. DeMonica. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 3-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, CHS activity reports. Mr. Mitchell, anything on this?
Well, I do believe it's in your packet of information, but I have nothing to add.
It has been filed. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, public comment. Anyone from the public wish to speak? Please state your name and your address.
All
Hearing
members of the
none.
public that are here, but nobody
Mr.
has a hand up.
Chandler, do we have anyone in the public?
We do have a number of people in the public, but nobody's requesting to speak at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to adjourn. Pleasure of the committee.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. DeMonica makes a motion to adjourn. I have a second by
Second.
Mrs. Bernardo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 3-0. Thank you, everyone.